So say hello if you, or just let me know that you can hear me. I feel like my camera's uneven, but okay, good. Okay, I'm a bit more for people to come in. How are you guys feeling today? Hopefully you watched YouTube video I posted yesterday, because we are going to kind of talk about that more and kind of go in that direction. And I'll explain why. Okay, so I am going to light my candle. And my mugwort. And if you've already done, fine. If not, it's just creating a sacred space. And we are all creating this actually in a virtual, all of us together virtually. So in yesterday's video, I talked about our addiction to light. And in animism, and especially shamanism, it wasn't always just about healing people. They made sure that there was a balance between us humans and the other realms. And of course, now we've come out of balance. And so it's going to take humans to create the balance that is needed, to go back to honoring the earth and the other beings and the other dimensions. Yes, go ahead and light candles and burn your incense and everything right now if you haven't done it already. So it's going to take people like us, and I'm not bashing, you know, light workers and all that kind of stuff. We're light workers too. But a lot of them aren't going to the areas where it's needed most. And so it takes people like us knowing that what we were conditioned to believe was in the dark, that was conditioned into us by organized religion, and the devil and all that, that is just totally created from organized religion. Anything that you experience when you're meditating or visualizing that comes first as being scary, or I tell you that people say they have, you know, encounters with beings that don't look like they're just love and light. Those are your creations. So the devil is that part of you that is your fears, your own creations and all that. It's not, which was given to us by organized religion. So before all the civilization came. And don't get me wrong, I like civilization, but again, we went way too far, and that was what was praised and all that. So we're totally out of balance right now, and there is no there is duality, and the ancients knew that, but they didn't see it as something separate. It was all one big, it's just part of the universe. It's just how it works. And there was a separation that occurred, and the two became adversaries against each other, which is not how the ancients saw it. There was chaos and there was order. And we need order, but we also need the chaos. And so it's like nature is chaotic, and then we as humans take the materials from nature and we build a house out of it. And that is order. So you can see, and that's alchemical, that's creating something from chaos. And so both are necessary. And some people don't want to go into that chaos or unorganization. I'm very comfortable in it because I'm very right-brained. Right-brained people are very, can be all over the place. And because we're so conditioned to be in the left side of our brain, people think we're weird. So I do have structure and I can have self-discipline, but I do allow the right side of my brain and our creative side just as much, if not sometimes more. And that's where we can connect with our intuition and see things differently, see the bigger picture, not so confined and all that. And so that's what I'm talking about when you go into that side, the feminine side, which a lot of people are afraid of, because it is giving up control and structure and rigid belief systems, and people don't know what to do with that. It's non-attachment to things and movement and all that. And I can't live any other way. I was married to an actual someone who was complete opposite of me, which of course, that was like OCD, everything was, he was in the military. Like I couldn't have gotten more opposite than me. But again, that was a polarity that I attracted. But I couldn't live that way. But maybe I needed more structure. So who knows? The people we get involved with always have something to share with us, even if it wasn't a pleasant experience. So I hope you guys all understood where I was going with that video. And I don't want to, I don't live in just complete the dark all the time, but I have to tell you, you cannot evolve or heal all that within you without going to that part of yourself. And you can't escape it. It's always there. And I am so comfortable in that space. And like I said, when I go into inner earth, it's twilight. So it's both. So it's the in-between. And that's where we all have to get. We all have to get, I had to get more comfortable with light because I was so in the feminine and my right side of the brain. So I was more comfortable in that darkness. And that's what a lot of shamans are. They're not afraid to go into that. But you know, you can get stuck in it. So I go back and forth, as you see. I had a couple weeks where I was just like, oh, love and angels and all that. And then I can go back down. So again, like I've said before, everything is in a sine wave. So we go up, we go down, we go up, we go down. And that's why I think people who are really sensitive to energies, they label bipolar. And so you can see how they go up and they go down and they go up and they go down. And I had a friend like that, and she was just really sensitive to the energies. But when you don't know that, you get medicated and all that kind of stuff. And it's just the way, it's that serpent, it's that up and down. And I'm going to talk a lot about the serpent in a video coming up and what it symbolizes and all that. So before I get started, I kind of am not knowing where it's going to go. There's some things that I want to do. So I never plan what's going to happen. I just allow it to evolve and happen as we go along. But is there anybody that has any questions before we get started? Because we can do a Q&A also. So okay. So I'm going to do, I'm going to pull an oracle card. And if there's not too many of us by the end of this, I'm going to actually, anybody that wants a card pulled for them, I'm going to do that also. I'm going to use a different deck. But I'm going to do this divination with this deck that reminds me so much of what Inner Earth looks like. And that's this one. Is it backwards for you guys? It is in my screen. Oracle of the Hidden Worlds. So, so the intention for this ceremony, I'm glad you asked, is that this is summer solstice. This is when it's winter solstice, when the sun dies on this day. And so there needs to be more of us on Earth that will honor the darkness. And when I say darkness, I don't mean, because people have equivalated, it's equivalent to evil. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the feminine, the darkness, the where we all come from. And I get so emotional with this because it's been, it's reflected in our society, how that was treated, and that creative part of us and the free part of us. That we got to a point in society where we weren't free, and they made us think we were free, but we weren't. And even, a couple months ago, I had to come out, and because I didn't feel free before that, talking about the things that I've experienced. And so it's that part of us that we ignore because we are in a society where you can't do that. That's a sin. You're weird, all that stuff. So we tame that part of ourselves. And like I was in the store and this song came on and I really loved it. And I kind of started dancing, and my son was like, "Mom, you're so embarrassing." But I'm all, why dance when we like a song? Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's that freedom, and we really aren't free. And I know that we are told we are, but we really aren't. We really govern ourselves. I feel like we're in a straitjacket sometimes, like the things we say, or if we want to dance all of a sudden, or if we want to laugh out loud, people look at you like, what's wrong with you? Why are you happy? I sing in my car all the time and people look at me like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, what's wrong with you? I mean, I think when I go into inner earth, let me tell you this. And I know a lot of people say it's love and light, but I don't equate it to love. It's joy. It's so complete joy. I feel like I'm the joy of, like, I feel like I'm really young. I feel like I'm like almost a child. And it's that I can only like equate it if you go to Disneyland for the first time, or it's Christmas morning and there's all these presents. It's that it takes I'll look at, I'll go somewhere, or like when that tree loved me and so much and its branches hung out to me. It was so full of joy, and my eyes were just wide open like a child. That's joy. That is our natural state. And if you live in joy, people look at you like something's wrong with you, I swear. And so we suppress it a lot. And that's the intention, where to get to that part of you that's not in that societal straitjacket where I have to be normal, and access that part of you that prevents you from being normal. So that's where we're going to go with this. I'm going to do like a meditation. And I don't like to call it that because I really don't like meditating and like new agey things. It's not going to be that, and it's going to be a little different. And I was shown how to do it a couple nights ago, of what to do with you guys. And I did it myself, and it was amazing. And I met beings that I know are family, and yeah, it was really fun. So I'm going to pull a card. So the intention is we're going to get in touch with that part of ourselves. So part of this evolution is we're getting rid of anything that's blocking us from feeling that natural state of joy. Because you can't, when you're in fear of unresolved issues, that will block you. It's just the truth of it. And if you want to call it shadow work, it's so important to not glaze over anything, but you just dive in and say, I just want to be rid of this. And so it's the quickest way to do it. Okay, so card for all of us. Okay, so I do believe this existed at one time. So this is the relics of Lemuria. Fragments, memory, and reclaiming. So that's, there's no coincidences. So part of what we're going to do is we're going to go and we are going to reclaim fragments of ourselves. Reclaim them. Just a confirmation of what I was planning on doing anyway. So let me read what it says here. There are within these hidden worlds between, kept safe from presence of the land of Lemuria, the place where humanity had its inception, and where you have had lifetimes as shapeshifters, mermaids, creatures of the air. These relics of land send out their energies to the world, and we receive them in the moments when we dream of our other lives, when we remember fleetingly who we once were. We discover we have abilities to heal, to hear, to sense, and to communicate deeply with the natural world. When this card comes, take a moment to give thanks to the earth, so to soften into the plants and their languages, the birds and their song, the intertwining of all that is, and know that you are part of the beauty that is all around us. Act and recommit to your own reclaiming of power. Allow the senses to extend and to feel the world in a deeper, more intuitive way. The lost books of Lemuria are written into your DNA, and when you recall, even for a moment, all that you are, its energy is reactivated in this world today. No longer as but as true abilities that, once remembered, can be reclaimed and reactivated in gentle and inspiring ways. And then they have this illumination, something to say. Remember, I reactivate. So whenever you go, those parts of you that we forgot, all these are in that unconscious, that darkness. All that wisdom is in there. And so we have to go looking for it. And so when I got, now I'm telling, when I first awoken, and I didn't purposely go to these places. So I felt like I was taken there, but I'm sure I agreed to all this before I incarnated. That when I finally surrendered and knew, just killing off old personalities, that my old self, the serpent energy, you're continuously shedding your skin. And when I finally stopped being afraid of going through these death experiences, I would get something else coming online. I would get, the holograms. I would get the ability to build that second skin and leave my body. And that they said mermaids. When I fly sometimes, and it's always in this like space of blackness, and I'm trying, and I'm not like visualization. This is when I leave my body. And I'm in this state of joy. I feel like my legs are fused together, and I don't see a fin or anything like that, a tail, but when I am fused, so it is very like mermaid-like. I don't see myself as a mermaid, but I think maybe that's how the legends of the they could have existed. I don't doubt anything, that there's so many magical creatures that I've seen. We wouldn't have legends of them or myths if they didn't exist somewhere in our unconscious, something like that. So part of that is every time that you go in and you do shadow work, or whatever you want to call it, you go into your unconscious. Everything that we are unaware of is in our unconscious, and that is all parts of ourselves, the beings that we were at one time, our untapped abilities. But there's also those things in our unconscious that we've repressed, which could be not coming to terms with some type of abuse, hanging on to a relationship, like anger. Until you can work through all that, you can't go and access that wisdom that is beneath all of it. And so that's why now I'm like, what's, and I had one the other day, and I'm like, why did that pop into my head? I thought I was over that. But sometimes they'll just come up as like thought bubbles, and then you just go, that's interesting. Maybe I wasn't over it, but I'm releasing it now. So it just popped, and I didn't even think it stayed in for 5 seconds, and then it just went through and popped and just went out. So I always see those thoughts that are coming up like that is because I'm healing, and they're coming up to the surface. And if I need to DM, you know, I do, and I cry, and I'm like, that sucked, and you know, but what did it teach me, and all that, and then it just floats away. Now, in the beginning, it wasn't like that because I go. My ego was just too, you know, well, they did that to me, so blah, 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 blah. And then you get to the point where you're just like, that's so silly. And you just let it go. A lot of this path is being non-attachment and not letting your emotions take over. And it's more of like a self-discipline. And you still have emotion, but you're not as attached. And that's what I tell people when I meet these other beings, or these what we considered gods. The one that I met in Shambhala or Shangri-La. They're very loving, but they're non-attached. And if they became attached to the human realm, there would be the power these beings have, they would come in and just destroy, you know, if they had an emotional attachment. So you have to become an observer like they are. And you'll get to that point eventually where you just observe and you don't let yourself get emotionally attached to the situation. You have to let them play out their web of weird, or their destiny, or their lesson. Because people always say, why do I have to go through? Why can't they come in? And because it's non-attachment. And if you wouldn't learn anything if they always came in and intervened and tried to, or, you know, although I've had that happen, but it's a non-attachment. And if you want to ascend, you have to also adopt that. So you'll feel love, you'll feel anger a bit, but things bothering you, and you just become a real observer. Because I think we are going to have a lot more power come to us. And whether you want, you know, it's witchcraft or shamanism or anything, we can't create from those something magical. From now on, I was told we can't do that kind of stuff. We're recreating, we're rebuilding. There's no revenge, and there's no hexing and all that kind of stuff. It won't work. You can try to do it, but they told me it won't work. So yeah. Let me see if there's any questions. Yeah. Well, Hagalaz, you know, is intense. So if you want to dive straight at me, I would have no problem, because I've been through Hagalaz without knowing, and it was awful. But when you consciously call it in, and I mean, I unconsciously called it in, and because I wanted out of a certain situation, but it was very painful. But when you consciously call it in, and you know that there could be some destruction happening, and you want to jump timelines, Hagalaz will do it. So yeah, part of the rune course, I'm going to teach you how to, at the end, how to really intensify an energy by singing Galder with the runes. And also we're going to combine the runes, and I do that also, make staves, and you can wear them. I'll draw them on pieces of hide and carry them with me, of something that I want to happen in my life. But yeah, part of this evolutionary process and animism and shamanism is you deal with things, just deal with them and stop putting them off. And as a society, we love to push off all our issues and troubles. And that's why we have addictions and things like that. We hand over these troubles, issues we don't want to deal with. We hand them off to a substance. Those holding space for us, actually, these spirits of alcohol or spirits of drugs. But truly, you're going to have to take that power back. You're feeding them so much power that it becomes more powerful than you, because it's holding so much space that you can't deal with. But it's becoming its own egregore, if you want to talk about, its own entity. And the more that you hand over your issues and your power and everything to this spirit of, or spirit of marijuana, or spirit, whatever you're using it for to hold space for you, because you deal with it's and grow and grow. People say it's so much more powerful than me. It is, because you gave it that power. So at some point you're going to have to take that back. And how I got on that, I don't know. But when things get tough too, I just want to deal with them. So in Hagalaws, and just be like, remove blockages, remove anything that's preventing me from getting to where I'm going. And sometimes I'm not conscious of what it is. So I just say, remove anything in my life. If it's a person, they're going to have to be removed. If it's a belief system, it'll have to be removed, because I want to go somewhere. I want to jump timelines. So you're going to have to purposely call in the destruction. And I'm not afraid of it anymore, because I am so not attached to anything. And so, couldn't say that, like my children, although I might have to, when I move next year, not live so close to my children, which is going to be hard on me, but they're adults now. So I think it's time anyway. So I'll have to deal with that one when that one happens. Yeah, my kids do the same, Jada. Like when I'm driving and I'm singing, they just look at me like, yeah. They love it in another way, because their dad is the complete opposite. Thanks, Old Dusty Road. I don't know what your real name is. That's nice. Thank you. Yeah. So, well, actually, after I took my trip to Mexico, I determined that it's not where I'm going to live. There's still maybe some work I need to do there in the land, but I might have been completed that. If you watch that video where I was working with, my friend saw me when she woke up, and I was working with energy, the green energy, where she was afraid to ask me what I was doing, but I wasn't doing it consciously. I was asleep, but there was green energy, and I was, if you've ever gotten light language or Galder, or whatever you want to call it, from me, and you see me moving my hands, so my friend didn't know anything, that she doesn't know me that way. I met her when I was doing interior design. So she doesn't know like my spiritual part or anything like that. And she doesn't know about light language and all that kind of stuff. And we were in the same hotel room, and we were in an old castle. And I don't know I forget what time it was. And she said that she looked over at me, something woke her up, and she looked over at me, and I had this green energy all around me, and I was moving my hands. She said, looks like you knew what you were doing, and she didn't want to say anything to me until we were at breakfast. And she said, were you awake at whatever time? And I'm like, what is it that you want to say? And so then she told me that. So I think she woke up because she was supposed to, so she could tell me that. So yeah. And again, why did I share that story? Oh, because I'm moving to Mexico. So I could have completed why I need there. I don't know. I don't have a desire to go back now, but I do. But I do know where I'm eventually going to be living. I'm just not there yet. Okay, so I want to go into the meditation now. So if you haven't lit your candle, go ahead and light your candle. And I'm going to burn some mugwort just to let my unconscious know that I'm going to be visiting it. So that's what all these tools are, is just letting, you're creating a conscious shift. And these are, it's like the Pavlov dog thing where they ring the bell and then the dog salivates and it knows that food's coming and all that kind of stuff. So that's what these tools are for, is to shift your consciousness. And I love ritual and ceremony. And it's something that I think we all need to get back to. And that was the big part of shamanism. And we talked about this in another live Q&A where somebody asked, like, what's the best offering we can do for the Yotnar or Earth and the other ceremony, like what we can do as offerings. And really what they love the most, and this is what shamans would lead in the past, is to have ceremony, especially outside around fire. And that's why they always did it. And they danced and they chanted and they sang. And that was the ultimate offering. That feeling that it's generated, that joy, when you feel joy and you're free, your body and everything, it expands and you give off this energy. And the natural world hasn't felt that for a long time. So when you can generate that, that is the best offering. And we discussed how awesome it would be if we could all get together here in California, in the mountains where I really want to live eventually, and do that. And another thing is to give them something that you've made with your hands. So we're all alchemists here. And so the best offering that you can do is to make something. And that puts your life force energy in it. When you're creating, if you've noticed that you lose track of time, so you're out of time. And when I would paint a lot and I would be alone, and I was so focused and I was so present on what I was doing. You're not thinking about what you need to get, groceries, or I need to go to the gym. You're not thinking about it. You're so freaking present when you create. And that's why it's so important to do creative tasks, no matter what it is, even if you're really shitty at it, just, or you think you are. There's a lot of people that think they're bad at something. And when I see it, I'm like, that's amazing. And we're really hard on ourselves. But I would be so focused and so into my project. And if somebody walked into that space and broke that, I was like, wah, because it was so sacred. I was so expanded that my energy was filled the whole room. And so I'm going to talk about that at the end, what we can do today. Because we also have to associate it with non-attachment. And for some reason, I think something happened to where they thought, they were losing the balance on Earth because it was going so much to civilization. And they thought that the most powerful thing that they could do was sacrifice a human or an animal. And it just, I don't think initially that was even, it was all ceremony. It was fire. It was that even created an incense when they burned the wood. I love the smell of burning wood. instruments. You know, they developed drums and rattles and singing and dancing. That was the best thing that you can do. And when you do that in a group, the energy that is generated is insane. And so, yeah, we lost that. So that's the best thing that we can do, is do that. So yeah, when I've done that out by myself, and I'm sure if someone walked in, they would think I'm a complete lunatic and probably call the police. But it's funny, when I am ready to do something like that, nobody comes around. It's like the area is protected. One time I was getting prepared to go to do a type of ceremony in the nature center, and this couple walked up, and the woman immediately stopped and said, "No, let's go this way." It was almost like she felt it, like not to walk into that space that I had created. And he was like, "Why? Like, why not?" Or whatever. But it's like she knew, and then she just turned around and they went the other way. So it's really amazing how powerful that energy is. Okay. Yeah. Drumming is amazing. And a lot of beings come around when you drum, especially in areas where drumming is not heard or used very much. It brings in a lot of beings. And it's really good for your body, the vibration. I've had my most amazing experience has been when someone's drummed for me. I can't do it while I'm drumming myself. I can get into a really great state, but like, you know, I don't do drugs or anything like that when I leave my body and all that. But the thing that works on me the best is sound, and like Pegatron. But drumming, it does it every time. The person that used to drum for me moved, so I haven't been able to do it. I can tell if they're off just to like a beat. So it has to be someone that is really good at drumming. Okay, so I keep getting off track, but that's okay. Okay. Yeah, I have a wonderful drum collection. I really like deep bass drums. I don't like the higher sound. I have a rattle collection. I have like African, Celtic, South American, Native American. Yeah. I played the flute for a little bit, but in all the moves, I lost it. So, but I really like just primal instruments, just made out of natural material. All of mine are natural material, but that I just have such a love for that. So the more of us that can balance out and not be afraid to go into your unconscious. There's so many gifts in there, I'm telling you guys. So many gifts. And the beings you encounter are so not used to humans going into that realm, because we've cut ourselves off for so long. So the meditation that I'm going to take us into, yeah, it's all about vibration. I'm telling you, sound and vibration is the most amazing. It resonates with the cells in our body and everything. But I can't listen to recordings, and I've said that before. I have to have the live, because it's the vibration along with the sound. That really is the key, is the vibration. Okay, so let's go into the meditation. Just so you know, we are going to go into our unconscious. So we're going to go into darkness, but we're entering through our heart. And if you drop into this darkness and you see a being initially that doesn't look like you would say like an angel and light or whatever, just wait for it. It'll transform. Because they're so not used to humans that they're kind of defensive. But right away, when they can feel that you've come in through your heart, they'll shift and you'll see their whole personality will change. I can see it. I don't know where you're going to go or who you're going to encounter, but you're going into your unconscious and you're going into that darkness, and it's usually black. So don't be afraid of that, especially, if you watched the video yesterday. And I have one on my playlist too. Is it The Burning of the Witch? Where Odin goes through all this process and everything and doesn't realize, or he realizes at the end, all the wisdom was in that darkness. Everything he was been searching for, he didn't realize it was in that darkness. That's the mother. Okay. So light your candle, and I want you to just sit comfortably. If you're able, you can lay down. And you're going to close your eyes because we're going to go into that darkness. But I want you to hold your hands, if you can, or one of them, depending on if you're watching me on a phone, however. And when I'm guiding you through this, I want you to have your hands or focus on your heart. We're going to try to stay out of our head. And again, if you've anything from me, I tell you to breathe, the diaphragmatic breathing. On this process, you're going to, evolution, your body's going to change. You're going to process air differently. And it's not going to be through our lungs. It's going to be through our diaphragm. I can't breathe any other way. It automatically changed for me like that one day. You're breathing kind of like you're underwater. It was a really strange sensation for me to get used to. So just start priming yourself for that and breathe with your diaphragm. And close your eyes with your hands over your heart. And take some deep breaths. So go into your heart space and picture a door, and it can look however you want it to look. And you're going to open that door, and you're going to step through it. And it's just blackness all around you. And immediately I want you to drop down, and I want you to fall. And you're going to eventually land. And be that's going to appear before you. If it is initially something that seems scary to you, let it transform. It can be an animal. It can be and I want you to try to embrace this being. And let them know you just want to explore. And you want to reclaim parts of yourself that are down here. Now, this being will most likely walk with you in this darkness or fly with you, however you want to move through this darkness. And you're going to stop at a certain point with this being. And ask this being to show you something that is blocking you, something that needs to be released. This could be anger towards another person. This could be abuse that you've suffered. This could be an addiction that you have, a belief that you would like to release. And see what is presented to you. And I want you to talk to this addiction or a belief system. And I want you to thank it for presenting itself. And that you release it now and take that power back. All things that we encounter in this life is to show us something. And when you're ready to release it, you will. You may not be able to do it this trip, but when you can get to the point where you can see the lesson in it and you can thank it and release it and let it know that it no longer needs, that you no longer need its assistance, it will go. So stay with this reflection as long as you need to. And tears are extremely sacred. If you feel the need to cry, cry. It is releasing the energy. It's shifting and moving the energy. If you can try to embrace this reflection, it may be too difficult right now. And just tell it that you are aware now that it was trying to just show you something and that you weren't conscious of it at the time, but now that you are, that you no longer need this reflection anymore. You have learned what lesson it was trying to teach you. And whether that was to take your own power back, which most of the time, that is what our lesson is. And when you're ready, you can turn around and the guardian that you met with arrived is there, and ask that you be shown the door to go back to through your heart, and he will take you there or she will take you there. And now open that door and step back into your heart and close that door behind you. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So I was shown that our heart is a filter, and do anything through that portal, that door of your heart, it filters. And whenever you do anything through your heart, you're always safe. You're always protected. And you don't have to be afraid to go anywhere. You don't have to be afraid to explore anything when you enter through this door that's in your heart. Sometimes when we try to enter a door that's in our head, that can get us into egoic troubles or anything. But when you're in your heart, it's a filter, and you're always safe. And that's why people, a lot of meditation and everything, they focus on their head, but that has never worked for me. Then when I was shown that this here, it's a filter, then it clicked. So and if any of you want to let me know what you experienced, if you're sharing that, or if you have any questions on encountering anybody. And if you weren't to embrace what you were shown yet, just do this again until you are. Not today. You don't have to do it today. Because there was some situations I just wasn't able to do it at that time. But just facing it is important. And it's just acknowledging it or knowing that that's something you need to work on will start helping anyway. But facing it is just a step in this. That's good, Jada. Total blackness. That's just going to the void. So if you don't see anything, that's fine. When I was taken there, I didn't purposely go there. So like my death experience where body dead, and I was taken to Gununga Gap, or the void. It's a cleansing. It's a restart. It was my shamanic death, and I didn't like being there, and that was because I was being stripped of everything I thought I was. So if you can sit in that blackness, it is like going back to the void. It's going back to the womb. So just being in there, even if you don't want to imagine anything coming to you or meeting beings or anything, just sitting in that is so, it's going into that part of us that we ignore. And I was reading something too, even about Isis, like they would go into these chambers, obsidian, like black obsidian. Just sitting in that blackness was touching a part of us that it's our origin. It's the void. It's that black hole. It's the origin of the universe. And so it's really healthy to get in touch with that, because again, we've been so focused on light, 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 and we're convinced that, and I'm not saying that doesn't exist. Like I see holograms and beings, they just look like a hologram of light. I'm not saying that's it, but you can't just focus on that. And the healing is in that chamber. It's in going back to the womb of the mother. And A lot of people get to that point. So if you can just sit in it and do that often, not even see anything, that's great. Just go back to that 0 point. Yeah, you have to let go of everything. And that's why people, this path is not easy for, because we're so attached to everything. Everything. We're attached to our country, we're attached to our culture, we're attached to our belief systems. But again, this is all programmed into us. And so even though I learned a lot from like the Norse and all that kind of stuff, I'm not attached to those gods. And the Mayans, I'm not attached to it. I had the most amazing energy with a Buddhist in Shambhala, like a Buddha, looked like the Dalai Lama. Now, if I didn't know what was happening and that he was just exchanging information with me, I would have thought, oh God, I need to worship him and I need to be a Buddhist. And whenever I meet these beings, there's non-attachment. Like I said, like there's a rule that they can't get involved with us, that we have to play out our orlog and our destiny and learn our lessons, and that they can't come in and interfere, or else become self-realized and will become dependent on these beings and these gods, and we give away our power, us to give away our power to them. We have the potential to be gods just like them, and beings. So that's where so we're all supposed to do this, and there's no wisdom. That's why they look at us with such reverence, because how can you be a super wise being if you never experience? So there are some beings that can't come into limitation and experience this. So how wise are you when you can experience being such a unlimited being in a limited form? And you experience, I mean, humans do some pretty evil things. So you can experience those things and get through them and witness war and the awful that humans can do. How can you talk or God when you haven't experienced all this yourself? All the potentialities of this universe. If you're only stuck in love and light, love and light, and light, that's a polarity. So there's some of us that say, I want to experience it all. And it might not be fun, but that's where the wisdom is. You can't go out and meditating. I want to experience it all. That's how I live life too. That's why I travel so much and I meet so many people, and I don't want to waste a minute, because I was told this, I'm not coming. And I love this planet and I love the surface Earth. I think it's so beautiful. And when you can get to that point, life becomes amazing, but you have to be detached. So you can't, whatever's playing out on, you laugh at you're just so silly. So you have to be detached. But that's part of it. To be emotional, but from a detached place, is like, that's where it is. Yeah, that's good, Jada. Well, rabbits and hares were very shamanic, witchy spirit animals, so not surprised. Yeah, where so you needed the power of a warrior Viking, old dusty road, yeah. And we store all those abuses and all that in a lot of it is in our sacral and our solar plexus. And we react with our solar plexus, and that's where the detachment comes from. There, I just don't react from them anymore. And that's why, you know, when you feel that anxiety and everything, it's all in that solar plexus. And that's where we store so much. And so that's probably why it was opened for you. But you needed a strong Viking warrior to help. You needed to take on that energy. So that was really good. Just totally feel for like the same. Like in my bedroom at night, if I have any light through the window, sleep. So I did ask for an eye mask, sleeping. And when I go into incubation, I have to have my eyes covered. I have to have complete blackness. And so that's why all the ancient cultures, they did caves, sweat lodges, they're completely black and steamy. So that's like going back to home. So that's what they were doing. So all these techniques, it's always done in the dark. Yeah, for like Ream 44 until I don't know enough, but if it was someone else's experience, maybe I don't know if you consider yourself like empathic, but maybe it's showing you that you don't need to take on other people's issues. I don't know. I don't know enough about your situation, but be what it was you that maybe you need to work on building stronger paths. We sometimes don't have good enough boundaries. And so you let a lot of in that's not yours. And I used to be like that. Oh my God, I used to be like that. And realized that some things that I was feeling weren't my own. And so that's why boundaries are super important. Really, am I still here? Okay. So I'm getting pushed to like start that I'm going to be coming out of hibernation and really start to focus on my work. So I don't know where that's going to be going, but I'm getting the same message. So my spirit animal is a fox, snow tail. So they're very shamanic because they can, they're very magical beings and they can hide really well and can be unseen. And they've always been like a totem for the shamans, that they can go into the unseen and they can become invisible if they want to and things like that. So yeah. So you can understand Ream 44, like what it was showing. And so it's always like the first thing that comes to mind or that shows up. But there's usually several behind it. And so when it's you doing it, you think that you can rectify it now, it is something that will present itself. So this is super important to always drop down into that blackness and that unconscious. And it's kind of opposite of what most people do. And that's why I don't see a lot of progress sometimes in some of these communities that I watch, because they're really focused on being in the brain and the head and all that. And that is, you know, it's our ego and it's our personality. And we need that. But again, the wisdom is in the unconscious, the things we're not aware of. We know we're conscious of all this around us. We're aware of this, but what are we not aware of? That's where the wisdom is. So on my channel, on my playlist, if you look, I don't know what it's called, under shamanism or vulva or witch, I don't know what it's under, but it is called, I think it's called The Burning of the Witch, where you finally realize at the end, all the wisdom was in that darkness that you were trying to avoid. Okay. So I want to actually we're going to have to act, or just say if you want a card again, because I can't scroll back through. So this is, I'll pull a card for you. And see what it is that you want to, or that the card is guiding you to. Okay, so first I'm going to do Kim. Card for Kim. So you got emotional release. So I think we already kind of took care of that, but let me see if there's anything else that it's saying. Do a lot of crying if you need to, or stomping your feet, or whatever it is. This one is talking about how we always think that we're like really strong and independent because that's, you know, really what is praised, but that sometimes we need to get support of our tribe. So, and I'm that way too. I was always very solitary, and I got this, I'm doing this on my own. And it was hard for me to even do live Q&As and get a bunch of people together. But I realized that it's really, really important. And not just for me or for you, but it's important when we come together, the energy that we generate for everything around us. So stop trying to be so strong. Voice your feelings, acknowledging them, journal, create, dance. Find a way to feel your most feared emotions. So that is your card. Next is Gypsy Jade. So you got, looks really bad in this light, psychic development. So looks like you need to So the energy and healing work that you are doing, either today or if you're doing any type of practice, is going to heighten your sensitivity to the energy around you and others. But to use it with your discernment, know the difference between what's yours and what is somebody else's. And it says it can also signify to take a class, workshop, or read books about psychic development. So something for you to work on. Okay, Melissa. This is for Melissa. And you have the truth card. So let's see what that says. And this is that eagle energy that just will not go away that we've had for months, it seems like. So the eagle proudly surveys its domain from such a high perch that all pertaining to the situation is revealed. The shadows hide nothing from this keen vision. Once you can remove yourself from the muck that lower vibrations keep you in, you can attain a viewpoint that enables you to see the truth of the matter. This card advises you to search for the truth of the situation regardless of the emotions it brings up. Are you or someone connected to you unconsciously suppressing the truth? Hiding from the truth can only intensify the lesson later on. So, you know, I've talked about the eagle vision and seeing the whole picture, the light and the dark. And I don't know if you have a situation going on right now, to see it from a higher perspective. I don't know. So that was what you got. Who did it? Okay, so Laureen. You received healing energy. Okay, so drawing this card guides you to work with energy on a healing level. Take a class or just sit in meditation and concentrate on mindfulness. With the healing energy of love, you do not have to know how to do anything. Just sit quietly, set your intentions. When you are living in a vibration of healing, you not only affect yourself, but those around you. Others can connect with your energy and their vibrations can rise as a result. As I've always told you, the guys, that when you evolve and you raise your vibration and your energy and you walk among other people, it automatically affects everybody. That's why it's so important that the more of us that do this, you automatically, like a virus, you just affect everything around you. Alternatively, this card could signify a healing is taking place within a relationship. So I don't know if you're thinking about going into the healing arts. So that's a positive card for you. Or if there's a relationship that needs to be, it's going through some type of healing right now. Okay. Snow Hayutail. I know I'm not saying that right. Okay, this one's for you. You got Reunion of Souls. Okay, so this talks about, you know, that you can have awakenings and Kundalini awakenings by meeting somebody else. So this card kind of talks about that we when we come to Earth, we have contracts with other beings, and so at different points in our life, we will run into these beings, and they will affect our life in some way. So this card kind of talks about that. I don't know if you are questioning if you're in like a soulmate relationship, or if you've met someone that has affected you that way. But it's always to teach a lesson, no matter the human form, no matter the human experience. And these agreements were always based on love. And so no matter how shitty it was, you have to see that it was trying to show you something that you weren't seeing inside yourself. And they can be challenging. This is a lot of the twin flame energy. It can be extremely painful and challenging. But again, I am so grateful for that relationship. It actually is what stimulated, it was a catalyst for my Kundalini awakening to prepare me for my shamanic death. And so I have to be very grateful for him. We still communicate. But I'm over thinking that we have to be in a relationship. This card also signifies a profound soulmate relationship, whether it be between lovers, friends, parents, or children. So I don't know if there's something going on in a relationship wise, or it may be coming. I don't know. Okay, Joan. Six is discernment. So let's see. So it's talking about taking on other people's energies. And again, as empathic people, we tend to do that a lot. Not claiming something that is not ours. And not about labeling or judging anything, and just let that energy wash through you. I had experienced a lot of energies that I felt like I was clearing for the collective, and I knew they weren't mine because I just knew it wasn't me. And so I had to just like surrender to it and let it just wash through me, and not hold on to it or attach to it. So you may be one of those people that feels a lot of energy that's not yours because somebody can't clear it themselves, and so it goes through you. And I thought we were done doing that. There was a lot of us doing that. I thought we were done doing that a couple years ago, but every once in a while it still happens because we're a collective. And so those of us that have done a lot of this inner work, the clearing of the unconscious, sometimes we get this energy. I was clearing for a person that I know, their ancestors, and it was so strange. It was like their whole tree of ancestors, and I know they're not mine, but I know that they're theirs, that person's. And so, God, it was just really strange. And this happens to me a lot. Like I'll get, my throat will get tightened, or you'll feel something in your solar plexus, your heart will open up. A lot of those energies coming through. When I talk to somebody and I know that they have an issue with communication, or they're talking very unkind, my throat will constrict. And so I have to not freak out, and I just have to kind of let those things go. And just like here, it's just saying, wow, that's interesting. So I kind of had to get to that point where I was like, oh, that's interesting. So you just have to do it objectively. And really listening to what your body's telling you. I'm going to really go into this a lot, how our body is super intelligent, and really paying attention to the signals that we get inside of our bodies. So that might be something that you need to work on, or do you experience that a lot, feeling sensations or other people's energies? You may be clearing for people that, or issues that aren't really yours. Okay, Jada. Okay, Jada. Why am I out of focus? Am I still connected? Okay. Okay, Jada, you received sexual energy. So let's see what this says. And I've always, or I've been talking about this, how sexual energy is something we're supposed to reside in and not push it out. And so this actually is talking about that. And it's our that's where all of our energy comes from, is our sexual energy. So when we cannot, when we can contain it and bring it up instead of always like out. I'm not saying that you do that, Jada, but there's some reason, it's where our power comes from. And that's why, you know, it was always suppressed, you know, to stay up here, because that's how they can control you with your ego and your personality. But your power comes from your sexual energy. And whenever I go flying or I merge with another being, it's a sexual energy, but it's not like human sexual energy. It's just, that's where it comes from, and it raises up. So it's just talking about moving that energy up. So you must have a lot of energy that is super powerful, and that if you really concentrate on moving that sexual energy up, I don't know if you have issues around sexual energy that you have to work on, but know that it is sexual energy. We've abused it a lot, and we've been abused sexually, and it will shut that down. That's where our power comes from. And so when we can really reconnect with it and use it in a constructive, creative way, then we become extremely powerful beings. And you become a complete conduit. And it's a really good point. I'm sorry that you got this card, but it's good. I'm not sorry, but it talks about so much that I want to talk about when we get to sacred sexuality. That we use it, both men and women, to seek validation, and so we kind of give our sexual energy away. So when we can contain it and not need it for validation, you become such a powerful being. And it's strange, because I was so used to using my sexual energy, and I was really sexual. And then when you go through your awakening and your kundalini and everything like that, it actually goes away. Like, you don't need to use it for validation anymore. And like I said, I've been celibate for 3 years. I'm using my sexual energy differently. And that was what all the powerful, like, magicians and alchemists knew. And there's a book with Think and Grow Rich, or I don't know who wrote it. And he talks about that, where when you can contain that sexual energy and not always explode it outwards or whatever, that's where he could create from. So it's super, super So powerful. I think, is it called Think and Grow Rich? It might be. I think it was written a long time ago. Let's see. Who was I? Okay. See, I even forgot who I just read for. Yeah, I don't even, this is getting really personal. I don't even masturbate. So that's a dissipation of sexual energy. If you feel like you need to, go ahead. But I will have sometimes when I have an energetic merge with a being, but it's not like what we think of as human orgasm. It doesn't go out like explosive energy. It actually, it rises up and it goes through your whole body. And so, if you can control it that way, I don't know if you can through, with another person. I know that it's possible through sacred sexuality because, but actually, when it's done with sacred sexuality, there is no orgasm involved, and there's a connection. I'll have to get into this during sacred sexuality. There is a connection like that, but then you stop moving. And then if they're going through the process too, you actually feel there's 4 of you, and your light bodies, they merge, and you don't know who's who. So there's no like typical, whatever you want to call it, pumping or whatever. There's no movement. And the orgasms happen spontaneously, but it's full body. And it just cycles and cycles, and it can last for hours. So yeah, it's hard to explain. I don't know. Anyway. Okay. Yeah, you will lose the desire. And that's a good sign when you lose your sexual desire, because that means that you have incorporated it, and it's contained within you now, and it's not something that you feel like it's super powerful, and so we would push it out. And when someone's trying to, again, I always say the Kardashians, every picture is like, and you can feel the sexual energy through the pictures. And so that's using sexual energy as manipulation and validation. And that's what we need to start getting away from, because sexual energy is just amazing when you don't use it as manipulation or attachment or trying to get something using your sexual energy. It usually does not end well. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know from a male perspective too. When you can have, it's all about not giving in to like every whim, and there's a self-discipline involved on this path. When you have emotions, but you have a maturity and a self-control over the emotions. I can look at a very good-looking man and be like, oh, he's good-looking. Now, I remember when I was in my 20s, you immediately think, oh, I'm attracted to him. That must mean we have to have sex. Well, that's not what that means. It just, you're appreciating their body or their beauty or whatever. It doesn't mean, so we're in a culture where immediately if we're attracted to somebody, we feel like, oh, okay, how am I going to have sex with that person? And that's not what it's about. You can appreciate their beauty without immediately going to sex. But again, socially, that's all we've been thrown in our face. The number one entertainers and everything, it's all they've done it all with sexual energy. So we feel like we have to be like that. Yeah, I've counseled a lot of women and men actually when they move that energy up from their lower chakras, and it's actually here. You know, it's like we're supposed to like meet in the middle, which is at the heart chakra, and it's not be so much in our head and get it to our heart, and then not be so just in our root chakra so much like about security and sexuality and all that, and move that up to your heart. And the spouse gets really hurt because, again, we've been taught that to get validation, we need to be sexually desired. And so when the spouse doesn't feel sexually desired, they feel like they're rejected and not loved anymore. But they're in a belief system where it was always about, I only love you. If I have sex with you, that means that that's love. And that's not love. You know, it's hard because when one spouse isn't in the same consciousness level and doesn't understand that just because I don't want to have sex with you doesn't mean that I don't love you. It's your relationship's at a different level. It's not at the level that we've all been conditioned to believe what constitutes a relationship. Did I read for any? Is there anybody that I missed? Diane, did I get you? Let me know. And then after this, I'm going to tell you what I am going to do today for an offering. And I hope I got everybody. Let me know if did I get you, Diane? I'm not sure. Or if you're even still here. Okay. Do I still need to read for you, Diane? Let me know before I go on to the last thing here we're going to talk about. Okay, I'm going to pull one for you then. This is for Diane. Woo, this one flipped. Okay, so you got teaching. And guess what? The book opened right to it. So let's pay attention to this one. Okay. The situation that you are inquiring about encourages teaching, whether it be a student, teacher, parent, child, or just a friend. We are all of us learning and teaching constantly when we are maintaining a high vibration energetically. There's seeds that have been planted. Allow them to germinate. And do not be attached to the outcome. Don't second guess what you are doing if you feel like it's the right thing. Just do what you're called to do. This card encourages a more formal teaching experience. Look for ways you can enrich each other's lives through sharing your expertise or knowledge. I don't know if that's coming up for you, some type of teaching, but the card flipped and then the book opened right to it. So if it's not something you'd consider, I would consider that. Diane. Okay. Ream 44. Would you like a card? I'm not sure. Okay, I'm going to Old Dusty Road. And Ream 44, let me know. Is that yes, you want a card reading? Okay, this is for Old Dusty Road. Okay, and then I'll do Ream 44. Okay, Old Dusty Road. You got 15, honoring your energy. Yeah, so don't leave because I'm going to show you what to do today for an offering. So, honoring your energy. We all have those days when we are disinclined to do anything. We try all sorts of mental tricks of what we should be doing. And does this ever work? No. We end up feeling guilty, which is a very low vibration. Yes, it is, because we've been taught to feel guilty if we ever say no to anything, or if we're not busy, or if we want to take a nap, anything, and which just lowers our vibration. Your body has rhythms just as everything else on the earth does. Flowers, trees, plants, and the elements. The tides ebb and flow. The sun and moon rise. Animals hibernate. Flowers grow, bloom, and go dormant. You need to listen to the inherent cycles within you. Rest when you need to. Work when you need to. Do not try to outthink the natural rhythms. Go easy on yourself and reserve judgment. You are your own harshest critic. So this is what I said in yesterday's video, to really be in rhythm with nature. And then at this time, we are being pushed to do this, go here, blah, 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 and be stuck in traffic. And when we're really supposed to be relaxing. And this one's for you, Ream 44. And and not feel guilty about it. If you feel like you want to say no, but you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And so you go, and then that builds resentment, and that's a super low vibration. So I have no problem telling people, I just can't do it this year, or, or I'd love to, but I just can't do it. And so you have to be okay with that and not feeling guilty. And, if they take it personally, oh, well, that's how it is. Okay, so Ream 44. You got number 2, new beginnings. Okay, water, emotion, energy, all life affirming and life giving. Patience is the key. So you need to focus on patience, which is not my strongest virtue. I'm much more patient than I used to be. Because I realized there's nothing, the more that I tried to push, it just pushed it out further. Once the deluge of emotion passes, you will see that left in its wake is a wondrous new day, a rainbow of possibilities. Do not get attached to the emotions that surround this situation. You will only attach your identification with the emotion itself, giving it more power and hindering the release. Sit in the emotion, cry, journal, talk it out with a friend, and then let it go. Perform a ritual if you are called to one. Place your feelings on a bit of paper and let it go, whether through the water or fire, which are both transmuting elements, which I'm a big fan of that. With the Yule log, like when you want wishes or to let something go, to write it on a piece of paper and burn it. Be thankful for the experience of the situation and proclaim that you are ready for the newness that is about to come to your life. So there's something that's coming, but you may need to release something for it to manifest. And it's kind of like the meditation we did today. Like, see the lesson in it, and then you're going to have to let it go because there's some new beginning that wants to happen. And it's coming. But you may have an obstacle there that needs to be released. Okay, so today is the solstice. And so what I call these, I call them sacred walks. And kind of like, I did a video on forest bathing and everything. So those are extremely sacred. When I go to the nature center, and I don't bring my phone with me, I bring a little bag, a paper bag to pick up trash, and a purse with some chapstick or so. I don't have much. And it's so sacred to me, that time. And that's why I try not to go when it's really crowded. And you talk to the trees and you touch the trees, and And every once in a while, I'll stand somewhere, I'll take my shoes off and just put your bare feet on the ground. And I don't know where you live, if there's snow or whatever, and you might not be able to do this because it's too cold. But sometimes really getting in touch with that coldness on your feet, it makes you feel really alive, and it really gets you in touch with your body. So I would still even do it if I was in the snow or whatever. And again, let the elements, if it's really cold, this is very shamanic that they would actually do these things, put themselves in cold water or whatever. But it's that non-attachment to you just let the feeling of that coldness come through you. It's an element. It's a like a yotnar. It's the feeling of coldness, and allow your feet to get dirty. We're so like hyper clean and everything. And so that's the feminine, getting really into getting your feet in the dirt. And there's ions that are in this dirt that are good for us. And smell leaves and everything. It's so sacred when we walk out in nature. And I know that people just think I'm so weird when I go out in nature, but it's just so amazing, so amazing. And so if you can do that today, that would be amazing. And I'm going to leave an offering. So the best kind of offering, like I've said before, is when you make something. So we come here as alchemists, and the beings love it when we take ingredients or we take different elements and we cook them or we put them together or whatever, and we make something different out of all those elements. And then when we're making it, we're so focused on that one thing, and we're putting our life force into that, so that it becomes a talisman, and it's super powerful. And so when you can do that, make something, and then you leave it as an offering. So the best way, which is also teaching us non-attachment, is that you make that and you put all that effort into it and all your life force into it. And then when you get to the location, you break it, and that releases the life force energy. But it also teaches you not to be attached to it. And I know that is it in Tibet or whatever, they make these beautiful things out of sand, and it's so detailed, and it's these mandalas, and it was so much work. And then right when they're done, they destroy it. So that's teaching you that enjoy it and enjoy the process, but don't get attached to it. And that's a big issue with humans. And I used to be that way, but it's so freeing when you just let everything just flow and go. So these are the ones I showed you on the last Q&A, these snowflakes that I made. So I took baking soda and cornstarch and water. So I just took these ingredients like an alchemist, and I cooked them over the stove, and then I baked them, which was the heat element, and I added water, and and it had fire from cooking it, and the heat of the air of the oven. And so and it was made from things from the earth, so it has all the elements in it. And then when I was making it, when I was doing the cookie cutters, and then I imprinted it and all that, and then I tied it, and I was like, oh, it's going to be an ornament. So I spent a lot of time. I don't know how many I did, a dozen. So they love when we do things like this, take things from nature and make something. So I'm going to take this, and it has tons of the elements that I used, and it has my life force energy in it, and it has my passion and my creativity. And then I'm going to break it, and then I'm going to leave it there in the nature center. And so that's something that that you guys can do. And if you ever offer food, like I tell people, they love, for some reason, well, in North America, they love tobacco, but they love citrus. And so if you ever want to take an offering of food, cut it, because that releases the life force energy in it. But the best thing that you can do is make something with your hands. Take ingredients and make something and really put your heart and soul into it. And then when you get there, you break it, and as you're offering it to them, and you leave it for them. And that is great, besides singing and dancing and all that kind of stuff. Okay. If you watch my videos, I've spent some time with the Hopi, and I was actually able to witness their snake dance ceremony. But I didn't know about the sand paintings. Yeah. Okay, so I do want to do a little bit of Galder or light language, because I wasn't going to, but so when I start talking and I have to clear my throat, I was told, I actually got a message, and I wrote it down with a date, that whenever I have to do that, it's important, or it's the message is coming through from another being. So when I am listening to people making videos and they have to clear their throat, I'm like, ooh, this is important, because I was shown that that's what will happen when you need to clear your throat. And I usually edit them out of my videos because sometimes I really have to clear. But if you see and you notice that I had to clip my video because I was clearing my throat, pay attention to what I said afterwards. Okay, so again, I was told this needs to be witnessed. So I don't know if I'm going to be moving my hands or not. So this language, to me, I know a lot of people say light language and all that comes from other planets and all that. For me, it's an ancient earth language that I speak. And when I go to Inner Earth, I've used it a couple times, and it opens passages for me. That's how I got into Shambhala, is I was speaking it into a opening, and a person arrived, and hallways opened. So it is a magical language. So I'm just going to ask for whatever message is for us today. And again, if you've never received it or you haven't, just don't try to figure it out. Just kind of hold your heart and know that it's from guardians. It's ancient earth. It's ancient feminine. When I speak, it's always an ancient feminine feeling that is coming through. Okay. And people react differently to this depending on where they are. Some people get really emotional. Some people are resistant to it. So that's an ancient part of yourself that you may be resistant to allowing in, if you're resistant to it. But it's just different how people react differently. So I'm going to, okay. I'll get my hands ready, but I don't always use my hands. Okay. Mm-hmm. Eyana ke anasainete. I ene ke anasainete anaka. I ene ke amayana taine ke anasainete anahine ke anasainete anaka. I ene te amayana taine ke anasainete anakaine ke ana. I emene te anakaine se anatahine. I ene te anakaine ke amayana. I ene te anakaine te anasaine te amayana taine ke ana. I ene te anakaine se anataine ke amayana taine ke anasaine te ana. I ene te amayana taine ke anasaine te anasi ene te anakaine te amayana taine. I ene te anakaine se anataine ke amayana taine ke anasaine te ayana taine ke anasaine te amayana taine. I ene te anakaine se anata. Ieneteana kai, ieneteana, ieneseanata. I don't usually get emotional, but when they first, or she, or it's a collective kind of feminine, I started to cry. So I don't usually, I'm pretty detached when it comes through. So that's more like their feeling that came through. And it was just like this pure, like, love and support. And I was getting, like, if you could see all the beings that are around all of us right now, even if you're watching on replay, you would be amazed of the support that is here for us, especially the ones that are willing to do this work and go into that unconscious. Like, every time someone does that, it's like there's this applaud. And anytime someone can allow themselves to go into that feminine of being vulnerable and that darkness, and understand that, and be creative, it brings so many beings around. It's so like, when you're in that space of creating and you feel really expansive, like I would fill up the whole room. There was beings just watching. It's amazing. They love watching humans create. So if all of you could start, if you're not already creative, start doing something creative. If it's drawing pictures or making anything. I've never made these before. So just, I mean, YouTube, you can figure out how to do anything on YouTube and watch somebody do it. If painting for me was just, and then I should get back to doing that. But just creating, they love that. You will have such an audience that you can't believe. And if you do that, if you paint, if you say before you make something, you're doing it in honor of these beings, you don't even know, you should know who they are. Oh my gosh, that's just, even, you will have so much support. You have no idea. So there was a huge audience that came in, and just want everyone to know that this path, you're super supported. And I just thank all of you guys for supporting me, because I know I'm not like the love and light type, but I just find that I got stuck in that for a while, and I wasn't going anywhere. And it wasn't until I accepted that part of me, that darkness, and honoring the feminine in all of us, whether you're a man or not. And I love the masculine. We need the masculine also, but the one that's allows himself to be vulnerable also. And so we need to honor both, but we've been unbalanced with an unhealthy masculine. And so when we can really get in touch with that, the mother or the feminine, or that, and allow ourselves to be vulnerable and go into the unconscious, where so many people in this path, or this new age, or whatever you want to call it, that only still want to focus on light, light, light. And it's still just Christianity or an organized religion in a different form. And it, and a lot of people that do this path where they go and into the darkness, whatever, then they feel like they have to be scary about it. And then that turns people off. So it's important that we have a balance of both, but we don't, we're comfortable in all this light because that's what we've been indoctrinated into. But in the past, they were comfortable in both, and know that both are needed to be complete. So, yeah, I just want to thank you guys I'm getting so much more comfortable revealing all these parts of me. And I really want people to be comfortable with going into that part of themselves and know how healing it is. And so to watch, if you go on a walk today, or if you make something and leave an offering, but today is the death of the sun. So we're honoring the darkness that is part of the universe. There's more darkness in the universe than there is light. And we're just focused on the light. So honor that. Today is an honoring of that. And just, it's so sacred. It's just so sacred. So if you haven't watched that video, The Burning of the Witch, or whatever on my playlist, also watch that one too. And you may resonate with that. All right. Okay. Yeah, it's not scary. It's so super healing. So yeah. It's the feminine. And as like I told you, I get a lot of visions of like Mary Magdalene, and she is always crying. And then when I was in Mexico and I saw the woman in white and she was weeping. And it's the feminine, and she's still weeping. And until we can get to that point, it's not scary. And that's what she's so sad about, is that she's our mother, you know, and it hurts her that we're so afraid of the feminine. Even the feminine's afraid of the feminine. So it's just a part of us. It's part of the universe. It's part of everything in existence. And it doesn't have to be scary. We have been so conditioned that everything dark is scary. And you know, it's not. If I didn't have a room, I wouldn't be able to see that come visit me, because they're holographic, and in the sunlight you can't see them. So I have to have a dark background. And when the blue sky is out and the sun is out, behind that is this, and it's not evil. Evil is the things that we create and that we do. There's no, it's I don't know. Yeah. It's not, it doesn't have to be scary. Thank you, Old Dusty. I love your name. I love Old Dusty Roads. Thank you, guys. Yeah, maybe we'll do more. I know that starting next year, I'm going to be doing more of these types of things. And I think we're going to start doing like, in the ancient times, the new moon was the most powerful. And calendars were new moon to new moon. It wasn't full moon to full moon. So maybe we can do moon ceremonies, you know, and really when there is like a solstice or some of holiday, that I can do more of these things, that we can really get together. And I would love eventually organize something we can all come together and really have like a ceremony, a fire pit and drums, and I would really love for you guys to really all have the potential to speak Galder or light language. It's such an ancient part of us, so that you can access it. And so I would love to do that, but I feel like I need to be in person to do that with you guys. So And if all of us were together and speaking it, I've heard people get together and say, and they, even though they're doing differently because they're tapping into a different energy, it all worked and it was amazing together. And God, the beings would blow their minds if we did something like that. I'm in California, but I know where I want to have it, and it's up in the mountains, and it was thing. And I don't want to do it when, when it's really hot. So it would have to be like before May, probably. So I think that went 2 hours now, and I didn't lose internet. So the gods are with us. Okay. So if you can, try to take a sacred and offer it, that would be amazing. And maybe I'll show you 2 things that I offer as talismans. I can make videos. So yes, the sweet darkness. Yes. So we need it all. We need the love, the light, the joy, the darkness. It's all one big soup. And we need to stop the separation and the duty. I saw like in the Bible, it said how the darkness was separated from the light, and I was like, ah. So there you go. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like I have to throw away everything, even the Norse, the prose eddas and all that, because there's a lot of anything that's written down probably has some type of organized religion overtone written into it, because consciousness at the time. So yeah, it's just incorporate it all and don't separate it. There's no separation there. There was no duality before 2,000 years ago, really. All right, you guys, I love you guys. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful solstice. And again, we celebrate Christmas. Next year, I think, I'll talk Yule and maybe some things we can make for Yule, and then demonstrate what you can do, and if you want to do something a little different next year. Okay. All right. Okay. So thanks to all of you guys who stuck around, and I will see you on either YouTube or again on Patreon somehow. And if you guys have any questions, just send me a message and I will. Okay. All right, buddy.